Hello, good morning everyone. We are the group 5. By the way, I am Marian Iñapolietan, first presenter, followed by Kimberly Pungase, second presenter, and Jinli Mahamot, last presenter. So today, we're going to discuss all about the indigenous science and technology in the Philippines. So, at the end of this lesson, the students should be able to discuss the concept of indigenous science and discuss the contribution of indigenous science in the development of science and technology in the Philippines. So, are you ready? Alright. During the early times, Filipinos tried to invent tools and develop alternative ideas to explain the world around them. This system of knowledge, which is the foundation of indigenous science. So we were going to talk about that later. So now let's move on first to indigenous knowledge system. This knowledge embedded in the daily life experiences of young children as they grow up to transmit the cultural knowledge in their minds. Their parents and other folks serves as their first teachers, and their methods of teaching are in that very effective, since the lessons that they learned are intimately interwoven with their culture and environment, which comprised of good values, life stories of people and their daily life struggles, their views about nature, and their reflections on their experiences in daily life. In other words, indigenous knowledge are taught and practiced by the indigenous people. Now, here are some examples. First, prediction of weather. This is usually observing animals' behavior and celestial bodies. For further explanation, these are common behavior of an animals before it rains, which believed by our ancestors, such as frogs who grow clouder before it starts to rain, and also birds to fly low. It usually means that it will rain soon. There are some animals and plants can protect weather, but sometimes it just might be a coincidence. And next, for herbal medicine, like bayabas, kanang kamunggay, lagundi, ampalaya leaf, and other herbal plant leaf are commonly used in practice to treat illnesses and diseases. As we all know, no? Okay, nagamit mo sa nato. So, then, we have indigenous preserving of foods. As you can see in the pictures, these are some known ways in preserving foods. Kanang magamit ng asin, no? This is very kanang familiar na to. And then, classifying plants and animals into families and groups based on cultural properties, preserving and selecting good seeds for planting by separating every seed in the sack. And another, using indigenous technology in daily lives. Like for example, Anthil, a workshop that specializes in hand-moving fabrics and crafts. It operates multiple weaving communities throughout the country. And plow, it penetrates into the soil and breaks it. It can be used for plowing in dry land, garden land, and wetlands. So, nagagamit niya punta karon, no? Pero kasagaran is magamit mo jud og mga machines. Kaya nagka-high-tech naman ka. And then, next, building local irrigation systems. So, na naman po tayo mga dagkong canals or no, unlike sa una. And then, classifying different types of soil for planting based on cultural properties. And another is producing wines and juices from tropical fruits. As you can see in the pictures, no? These are popular in producing wines and juices in an indigenous process, especially here in the Philippines. Kaya familiar mo ng mga tuba, no? Bahalina. Lami dun na siya. Pero, I don't know, no, sa effect ana kung mo inom mo. And last, keeping the custom of growing plants and vegetables in the yard.
Indigenous science, according to Griben 2001, MKAPA 2004, and CBC 2004, is part of the indigenous knowledge system. So when we say indigenous knowledge, it refers to understanding skills and philosophies developed by local communities with long histories and experiences of interaction with their natural surroundings, which could be practiced by different groups of people and early civilizations. So, indigenous science is the body of traditional environment and cultural knowledge, unique to a group of people which has served to sustain through generations of living within a distinct region. According to Powell in 2005, indigenous knowledge, as what I've mentioned earlier, includes complex arrays of knowledge, expertise, practices, and representations that guide human societies in their innumerable interactions with the milieu. Ogawa 1995 claimed that it is collectively lived in and experienced by the people of a given culture, so indigenous knowledge will be attained through willingness and with experience. It could possibly add something to the existing knowledge in a specific culture. According to Kahete 2004, indigenous science includes everything from metaphysics to philosophy and various practices, technologies practiced by indigenous people, both past and present. Yacarino 2003 elaborated the idea by explaining that science is part of culture and how science is done largely depends on the cultural practices of the people. Powell in 2005 explained that indigenous science knowledge has developed diverse structures and contents through the interplay between the society and the environment. According to Kuhn 1962, developmental stages of most sciences are characterized by continual competition between a number of distinct views of nature, each partially derived from all roughly compatible with the dictates of scientific observation and method. While CBC 2004 also pointed out that indigenous science provides the basics of astronomy, pharmacology, food technology, and metallurgy, which derived from traditional knowledge and practices. So, science contributed a lot in our society. Indigenous beliefs also develop desirable values that are relevant or consistent to scientific attitudes as identified by Johnson 2000. These are, first, motivating attitudes, an act wherein a person can practice motivating people by influencing their thoughts and behaviors. Second is the cooperating attitudes. So it influences a person's desire and willingness to cooperate and produce an emotional response. The third is practical attitudes. So this could be done by making sensible decisions and choices. fourth and the last is the reflective attitudes.
Hello everyone, my name is Jinli Mahumat and I am here to elaborate the concept of indigenous science. So, Pawilan 2005 developed a simple framework for understanding indigenous science. Accordingly, indigenous science is composed of traditional knowledge that uses science process skills and guided by community values and culture. So first, indigenous science uses science process skills such as observing, comparing, classifying, measuring, problem solving, inferring, communicating, and predicting. And I am sure that you're all familiar with these skills, right? Okay, so moving on. Indigenous science is guided by culture and community values such as the land is a source of life. It is a precious gift from the Creator. The earth is revered as Mother Earth. It is the origin of their identity as people. All living and non-living things are interconnected and interdependent with each other. Another, human beings are stewards or trustee of the land and other natural resources. So, steward is a person whose job is to take care of something or someone. We, human beings, are stewards and we have the responsibility to preserve natural resources. Next, nature is a friend to human beings. It needs respect and proper care. So just like as humans, nature also needs respect and proper care. Next, indigenous science is composed of traditional knowledge, practiced and valued by people and communities such as ethnobiology, ethnomedicine, indigenous farming methods, and folk astronomy. So for you to be able to understand this traditional knowledge, ethnobiology is the scientific study of dynamic relationships among people and environments. It studies the way living things are treated or used by different human cultures. Ethnomedicine is the comparative study of how different cultures view diseases and how they treat or prevent it. Also, it is the medical beliefs and practices of indigenous cultures. Example of this is the use of herbal medicines. Next, indigenous farming methods like crop rotations, water harvesting, and many more. Next is the folk astronomy. It is the study of how ancient cultures interpreted, use, and view the heavenly bodies to predict seasons and weathers. So moving on, indigenous science is important in the development of science and technology in the Philippines. So like the ancient civilizations, indigenous science gave birth to the development of science and technology as a field and as a discipline. Indigenous science helped the people in understanding the natural environment and in coping with everyday life. UNESCO's Declaration on Science and the Use of Scientific Knowledge 1999 recognized indigenous science as a historical and valuable contribution to science and technology. And to summarize or in conclusion, this lesson discusses the concept of indigenous knowledge and its influence to the development of indigenous science. So the communities in the Philippines have maintained vast amounts of indigenous knowledge, cultural practices, traditions, and beliefs. This includes beliefs and practices ranging from different areas, such as health, environment, peace and order, agriculture, food production, astronomy, music, and literature. So the indigenous knowledge system of people served as the foundation for the development of indigenous science. And even before the time of the Spanish colonization in the Philippines, various people and communities already practiced science. They invented tools and built structures. They studied the medicinal uses of plants. They observed heavenly bodies to predict seasons and weather, and they used indigenous science in agriculture. So these are considered indigenous science, which is one of the foundations of modern science.